live. And we have
Bumper night.
We're not going to start. We're not going to intro until we have at least 2 viewers. It's a weird delay. Try not to look at the number of viewers on your screen, Tom. It throws you off.
I'm not even going to pay attention to it.
Do you think Kevin has spiced up his background with his Tatis uniform?
I think so. I think it's kind of cool that he's done that.
By the way, Kevin, all this conversation you're going to have to edit out.
That's okay. It's all good, man. We can talk about the Jets, Jet. I've got a good Jets story to tell, too.
All right.
Being a Chargers.
I forgot you're
But I'll wait. Yeah, man.
I totally forgot you were a Chargers fan.
He forgets.
And Padres, as you can see.
Yeah, that's right. It's you and my buddy Joel that are severe, like, San Diego fans.
Yeah, it's sad.
I don't understand it, but
I feel for Joel.
Well, you should. You should. I will not bring up the 1998 World Series. I will not.
No.
Hey, Kevin, when you edit this, you need to save the original and then save an edited version.
Okay, I'll figure that out.
I'm sure I just blew your mind.
It all over the back of the wall.
No. Oh God.
It's unnecessarily graphic.
Let's see.
Rated PG-13.
Thanks, Tarantino.
That got dark really quickly.
Yes, it did. Why?
All right, so we assume that Tom's wife and daughter are watching us right now.
We should. Yes.
Yes.
They're working it out as we speak.
It's our one viewer, which is actually 2.
All right.
Right. See, we were feeling 1, but it's actually 2 people.
Actually 2. That's right. Okay.
And our 1/2 viewer, you have the ability to chat us. And if you want to ask Tom questions or just comment about what we're talking about, you're more than welcome to. Should we wait for one more? Or should we just get going?
I get going, man. Let's do it.
All right. It's episode 6 or 7 or something. I don't even know what number we're on right now, but we are ecstatic tonight because we have our first guest ever on Bumper Night. And it is the one, the only Tom Greco. Tom, welcome to Bumper Night.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Tom, you were also acclaimed for being the 4th guest on Stories from the Center of the Universe, which I believe is now a top 2 million podcast.
That's fantastic. And I remember when Stories from the Center of the Universe was Podso 1. How about that?
Yeah, it's been so long since we changed that name. I don't even remember what that meant.
Yeah, that's like a throwback Padres jersey.
Yeah, that's true.
Just for Bumper Night.
I appreciate that. All right, so tonight we are talking about all things New York Jets. We are the Monday between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. And so, Tom, I guess we should start with, I know you're a Rangers fan in hockey.
Yep.
You're a Yankees fan in baseball.
All the way.
You're a Knicks fan, sort of. Not a huge basketball guy, but if you had to pick a team from New York, you're definitely saying the Knicks. Well, of course, I think there's only one team from New York in basketball.
So there's actually 2.
There's the Brooklyn Nets. I keep forgetting about the Nets.
Yeah, but I'm actually a Jazz fan in the NBA.
Oh, nice.
I'm a big Jazz fan ever since Jerry Sloan, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Hornacek, Ostertag, Antoine Carr.
You're just going to keep going.
I'm a big Utah Jazz.
Keep it going. I like it.
No, that's cool. We can bring you back to talk about the Jazz.
Absolutely.
Don't forget Byron Russell.
Brian Russell and Howard Isley. Yeah, I could talk about that. The fact
that we're way off course with the Jets here. My apologies for bringing up the Knicks. But you are a Yankees fan and a Rangers fan, and so you would think you're a Giants fan. Why are you a Jets fan?
So it's a cool story. I grew up, as you know, in New York. And specifically on Long Island, my dad is kind of the non-classic fan. So he's a Yankee, Islander, Nets fan. And my mom is kind of super classic, Giants, Rangers, but she's more she was always a Ranger fan, not an Islander fan. And so I just kind of glommed on to whatever they liked. But there was a videotape that my parents got at a yard sale in 1984. And it was I think it's Steve Sable. I might have that wrong. I apologize. But the NFL films and the old NFL, football in America type voice. covering the 1969 Super Bowl between the New York Jets and the Baltimore Colts. Weeb Ewbank versus Don Shula. Earl Morrall, then Johnny Unitas against Joe Namath, Don Maynard, Matt Snell, Jim Turner, like all the classic Jets. Emerson Boozer up against the Titans of the NFL and the old school Colts. I must have watched that, I don't know, 30 times and decided then and there that I was a Jets fan, even though at the time Ken O'Brien was our quarterback and he wasn't great. And everybody in New York wanted Jim Ryan to actually go in and actually be the starter instead of Ken O'Brien. And people felt that Walton, who was the coach for the longest time, was just terrible. And that was the 1980s, living as a Jet fan in New York. So that was the story, especially when, Bill Parcells, Lawrence Taylor, Harry Carsons, Phil Simms, Mark Bavaro, and Joe Morris could do no wrong, in the Meadowlands, at that time. What were you going to say, Kevin?
Hadn't you guys just changed your uniforms at that time, didn't you? To the dark green helmets with just the word Jets on it?
Yeah.
Early 80s?
Yeah. That had taken place with the sack exchange timeframe. So early 80s, 1982, 3, 4, right in there was the era when the Jets made this kind of run, right? So they had Mark Gastineau, Joe Klecko on the defense side of the ball, and they had the sack exchange where every week they would get a sack, and there were all kinds of promotions, hey, Joe, hey, Mark, come on down, to Paramus Mall, to Crazy Eddie's. And if these guys get a sack, you get to sack the price. There was all kinds of cheesy New York ads back then. And it just made me love those guys, especially Klecko and Gastineau, because they were larger than life. They were great, right? And Altoon and Freeman McNeil and Ken O'Brien on the offensive side of the ball. We actually watched Altoon catch a pass. And I think it's 86, but I could have the year wrong, where Altoon caught a pass between his legs, actually. Did not touch the ball. But it's one of the greatest memories of Altoon ever. One of the greatest receivers not to get mentioned anytime, anywhere. So, yeah. So that's
he's a Wisconsin receiver. What do you want? So, look, it's funny. I'm a Chargers fan, right? So any AFL team or old AFL team, I have a soft spot in my heart for them. And I have always had a soft spot in my heart for the Jets because I feel like the Jets, the Browns, the Lions, us. I mean, there are very few teams that, either have made that one Super Bowl appearance or you guys won in 1969. That's the year I was born. That's a long time ago.
This is all we got right here.
But the thing that just, the thing that just I just don't think is fair, right, is you guys, and it was right when you became a fan. You had to go through Jim Kelly, Dan Marino in the 80s, and then the 90s, and then all of a sudden here comes Tom Brady. It's not fair as a Jets fan.
Actually worse. It's actually worse than that for us, just to be clear. Because if you remember, right, in the middle of the 1990s, we had what we thought was a savior in that Bill Parcells came back, from retirement, and we had the only Italian-American, New York-born quarterback quarterbacking our offense in Vinny Testaverde, whose uncle rode the train with my uncle, and I have his autograph from the University of Miami. I have his jersey. Vinny Testaverde is one of my all-time favorite NFL players. Yeah, he was colorblind. I don't care. The fact that, this super, Nassau County, friend of Sewanaka High School before he went to Fork Union guy, was the quarterback for the New York Jets and killed it. Brought him to an AFC championship game against, the Denver Broncos and John Elway, arguably one of the top 25, certainly top 15 quarterbacks of all time in my mind, was awesome. Great team, right? Brian Cox on the defense, Patrick Surtain out there, roaming the backfield, incredible offensive line or defensive line. Great, Curtis Martin, Vinny Testaverde, Wayne Krebet, Keyshawn Johnson, Anthony Brecht. We thought we really had a team. And so, Elway retires, and then Vinny goes out week 1 of the following season. And then the very next season, Brian Cox and company hit Drew Bledsoe so many times, and he goes out, right? And we're like, this is it. Buffalo's not good. New England's not good. Marino's finally retired after he played in the NFL for 85 seasons. Don Shula failed to get a blood transfusion along with Keith Moon, so he may not live in his coffin any longer and be brought back to life. This is it. This is our year. And on walks, apparently, the greatest God-given talented competitor in NFL history, in Tom Brady, and the rest is history. And I watched it happen. So, yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for helping me relive that pain.
So if the Patriots didn't have Brady, I wonder what would have happened. Like if Brady had never been a thing, we'll never know, but they would have had better chances for sure.
I think the bigger question would have been if Belichick would have taken the job for Parcells being the defensive coordinator for the Jets. Like, then I have a question of what happens to us, right? Because you could make an argument that if he takes that job, one, is Belichick coaching in green and white? And two, does Brady come and play as the understudy to Testaverde instead of Chad Pennington? And, we can all take a guess which one we'd rather have. So it's an incredible, that loop of like 1997 to 2001 is like the most painful almost for Jets fans, in my mind, for Jets fans. And to answer your question, Kevin, that's also when we changed the logo back to the original logo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Jets when was the last time they were good? Sanchez went to the AFC Championship, I think.
Yeah, Rex Ryan.
That's right. During the Rex Ryan era, went to the AFC Championship game, went to the playoffs most of the years that we had Rex Ryan. I don't think he went his first year. Here's the thing, to your point, Kevin, like, here's the thing about being a Jets fan. People don't know this, but I researched this, and it's true. All-time leading receiver for the Jets, Don Maynard. All-time leading passer for the Jets, Joe Namath. Right? All-time leading rusher, Curtis Martin. Okay.
Curtis Martin, yeah.
Two of the three of those offensive leaders, just so we're all clear, played in the 1960s. Like, it's not like they got drafted in 68, right? Like all of those players were playing for the Jets in like 65. Like 69 was like their peak. And Namath was already hurt, had already blown out the cartilage in one knee after a terrible, awful Oakland game. And he would you would see the next season he would already decline. So the Jets as a franchise have always been a little lackluster, with the exception of that Sonny Werblin as majority owner. I want to make stars on a football field, time frame. And then he rides off into the sunset, and the rest is history.
I mean, I think the Jets have to be the only franchise, maybe one of three, that their passing and receiving leaders are from over 5 decades ago. It's
incredible. When I saw that stat, when I was preparing for this podcast, I wanted to make sure I was somewhat knowledgeable, because I admittedly am not the most ardent NFL fan, because games changed over time. We all have lives and stuff. I still love football, but it's hard to follow week to week. But I looked that up, and I could not believe that stat when I saw that Namath was it's like, oh my God, like
amazing.
How is that possible? And some of it's by virtue that he just played with them for so long. He played with them until 76, right? That they had that one season in 77 where he played for the Los Angeles Rams. But still, like, you would think someone else like O'Brien or Testaverde, somebody who played with longevity, would have taken that over. No, not the case.
Well, and look, back then, even though Namath probably threw more than most quarterbacks in the 60s and 70s, they still weren't throwing a lot.
No, they had Snell and Boozer, and that was exactly how they act. If you go back to the Super Bowl victory, right? Like, Baltimore was ready for Namath to throw the ball. They boxed in a lot of, they gave Maynard a terrible time in the first half. The game was not a high scoring game, so it was not an aerial attack. It was absolutely, Boozer crushing through the line and really testing that Baltimore line that kept the Jets in the time of possession game, I would argue.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we've got a few viewers on. There is a chat function. I've never been on that side, but you're more than welcome to comment or ask questions, especially if you know Tom. If you know Tom Greco, you absolutely should chat him a question. All right, so Tom, you're currently a Jets fan. You would classify yourself as a Jets fan.
I would, yes.
Why do you remain a Jets fan when a lot of Jets fans maybe have hung it up over the last 30 years.
So this is going to sound so trite coming from New York, but I want to preface this with my hockey team has won, won one championship in 1994. Prior to that, the last one they had won was 1940, right? The Knicks won a championship in 1971, haven't won one since. The New York Yankees didn't win one. The Yankees had not won one from 77 until 1996. So I was born in 77. So I had never seen them win a World Series until, the Saint, Joe Torre, comes and restores glory to the franchise. So New York is a very storied town from a sports perspective, but they go through droughts in each sport, number one. And the answer to your question is because I was just taught when you're a fan, you just don't abandon your team. You hang in there through thick and through thin. And it doesn't mean you don't appreciate like other players of other teams. And certainly in some cases, entire other teams. But I'll always root for Old Dominion University football. I'll always root for the New York Jets. I'll always root for the New York Rangers. I'll always root for the Yankees. And I'll always root for the Utah Jazz.
Well, you know what? It's funny because Paul and I have had this conversation several times. Bill Simmons wrote a book about it. You can't change your team. There are certain things that can happen where it's okay to change your team. But
right.
Let's be honest, we're all adults. If you want to change your team, change your team. I just won't listen to you talk junk to me about it anymore. But I know some Jets fans. You're one of them. I know a couple other guys, Mike Greenberg on TV. Jets fans are diehard. And I'll tell you a quick story. I went out to San Diego. The only time I've been to a Charger game in San Diego, I think we were 6-1. And the Jets were 2-5.
Okay.
And I remember they were. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to go see a game out there. And by the way, I'd been to probably 5 Charger games in other cities, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and they never won. Never won. I'd never seen them win. So I'm thinking, here we go. I get to see Jack Murphy Stadium. I'm in heaven. It was a great experience until the game started. And here's the thing: we were sitting up in the pretty nosebleed. We didn't pay a lot for our tickets. Me and I don't know if she was my wife at the time or my fiance, but we were sitting up at the top, and we happened to be sitting with around 20 Jets fans.
Diehard Jets fans, right? Yeah.
Diehard Jets fans.
Yep.
And
we
were I don't know if you remember this game. We were down 31-0 at halftime.
But y'all came back and won the game, right?
No. No, it was 44-13, I think, at the end. We got blasted. And the whole game, all I heard was Jets, Jets. I mean, I wanted to turn around and strangle somebody, but I'm not going to leave early, right? This is the one time I get to. Okay,
you were wearing blue.
And they were. Yeah. Hey, and a lot of Northeast fans love to go out to San Diego and catch a game because it's San Diego, right? So,
right.
I'm sure they didn't think they were going to win that day, but it was a bonus, icing on the cake. But yeah, good for you for sticking with them, though. Hey, you never know. You never know. The Buccaneers have won 2 Super Bowls, so you never know what could happen.
Well, hold on. Since you're going to take shots at the Bucs, that was clearly a shot taken.
Yes,
clearly. Let's add up the Jets and the Chargers Super Bowl wins.
But that correct, 100%. 100%. I agree. I always have a soft place in my heart for Tampa Bay because it's where Vinny went.
Whatever.
And I will share this. Like when Vinny went to the University of Miami, I was too young. I was not a football fan in kindergarten. I just wasn't. My parents watched it every weekend, but I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't have any interest in it. I wanted to play soccer and I wanted to play. I wanted to play street hockey, and I remembered specifically being over at my aunt and uncle's house, and everybody talking about, hey, is he going to play? So is he going to start right away? No. Seriously, are we going to see him? Can you even get Tampa Bay game? Do we have to know somebody in Florida to watch that game? Like the conversation was, we want to know how Vinny's doing because you never hear of a New York City or Nassau or Long Island guy, going going that big. So like for my folks and all my friends and family, Testaverde was a big deal. So when he went to the Bucs, we had a soft spot in our heart for it. So yeah.
He ended up having a solid career. He played for 20 seasons, right? Something.
He did. He got killed in Tampa Bay. It was during a time when Tampa Bay wasn't great. It was during the Roy Cobb. I think that was the name of the running back. Cobb. Is that right?
Roy Cobb's the guy from The Natural.
Right. No, but what was it? I always want to say Roy Cobb, but it was a running back named Cobb, I thought, or at least based on my use of the Super Tecmo Bowl Super Nintendo game. That was the name of the running back. But I would always play as the Bucks when I didn't play as the Jets because I always wanted to play with Testaverde and like beat Montana. Like that was the whole idea to do, was to go to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game with Testaverde. And my dream was that he would throw a last-second touchdown to some unknown receiver and just crush Montana's dreams and then go on and win the Super
Bowl. Tom, are you prepared to talk about or describe the butt fumble?
The butt fumble. Tell me about
Sanchez. Some mix up
Come
on
on,
play.
Tom. He erased it. He erased it from his memory.
I did.
That's
I don't.
pretty good.
Well, I didn't know it as the butt fumble. So I'm going to tell you that I believe this wholeheartedly. I believe that for every team that has a significant amount of arrogance, it's paid back to them, right? Like if you're a Patriots fan right now, I think you need to buckle up for the next 20 years of just hell, right? I really do, because you've had it so good for so long. There's this, I think God has a way of just, he affects sports by saying, and now you shall have pain, right? And the butt fumble, in my opinion, is embarrassing. It's awful, but I'm different than most people. I'm going to say this: Mark Sanchez was one of the gutsiest, emotionally tough players to put on a Jet uniform. If you think about it, he came to the Jets when we were terrible. We were rebuilding. The coach is a lunatic who says weird stuff to the press every single week, but had his back for sure. And it was at a time when Roethlisberger was just coming on board and super strong in the AFC. Brady was the phenom already. He had already beaten the greatest show on turf. And now, he had already racked up some wins. You had Phillip Rivers in San Diego that could do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. And let's not forget that in Indianapolis at the time, Peyton Manning was always waiting to light it up with 38 points with Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. So it was a rough time to be a new quarterback that wasn't supremely talented in the league. So he had the butt fumble. He threw that terrible pass in the AFC Championship game against the Steelers that year. That's the one that when I saw Rex rip his hat off and crush his headset, that was the one that almost brought that was painful to watch. That's probably the last Jet football game I've watched in its entirety because it's just too painful. So I'm a big, I remember the game. I remember the butt fumble. I remember friends texting me seriously, man, USC told you never should take a USC. I'm like, yeah, where were you when we had that opportunity? But it is what it is. I will forever be thankful for Mark Sanchez getting us close. I think we owed him a couple of receivers that were maybe over 6'2". That would have been nice for him to have.
I mean, if I'm a college kid,
he beat the Chargers.
True.
If I'm a first round caliber wide receiver, I want to go to the Jets to break their record for most yards as a receiver.
Well, I think that you can do that. I think that I think the issue is and has been for years who's throwing the ball to me, right? Because Sanchez was known as not having a great arm. Before him was Chad Pennington, didn't have a great arm. Then we had a couple years in between where it was, quarterback by committee. It was Tom Tupa and Chad Pennington. And then before that, it was Testaverde, who did have a decent arm. But even Testaverde in his heyday was never a 400-yard-a-game quarterback. He was always at best 270, 2 touchdowns, maybe 1 pick if the team's color was close to if it was close to green or white, it might, then he might have trouble. So that was always the thing, at least for me. That's my sense.
Have you ever looked back at drafts and to see how many Hall of Fame quarterbacks the Jets didn't take?
Well, yeah. Well, we've all seen the ESPN 30 for 30. What is it? Elway to Marino. Right. So if you notice, and so Can we spend a minute on this? Because I have okay. So if you read Namath's book and then you watch that kind of Beaver Falls homecoming for Namath that they did, I can't remember if it was a 30 for 30 or HBO Sports. You know, the the New York Giants tried to sabotage Joe Namath's entry to the AFL. And what they tried to do was they tried to make sure that they told the St. Louis Cardinals St. Louis Cardinals to offer Joe Namath a lot of money to come there, and so that he would not go to the Jets because they didn't want to have this other New York team gaining notoriety. So Namath has a friend, a law school friend from Alabama negotiating for him. And he says, we want I forget the number. It's in his book, but I think it was like $100,000 at the time. This is 1964, 65, maybe even 63. That amount of money is unheard of. And the friend to this day is on television. He goes, ooh, I hope I didn't put too much air in that balloon. I might've made it pop. You know, he was joking about all these teams who were interested in Joe. Joe chooses the Jets anyway. But the owner of the Jets, unbeknownst to Joe Namath at the time, the Jets were not going to take any other quarterback because Sonny Werblin had already decided that Joe Namath was a star. He saw Mickey Mantle. He saw Bart Starr and Paul Hornung. He saw Vince Lombardi, and he associated football with television. Ever since Sonny Werblin was no longer the owner of the Jets, we have not had, in my opinion, I think we have a chance in the coming set of years, but the Jets have always tried to pull off this very workman-like, very journeyman-like, very blue-collar-like, very Baltimore Ravens 2000, which is what we're going to try to do again, approach to football. In other words, like it's a foregone conclusion. Joe Burrow, I'm going to smoke a cigar. I'm going to win a national championship, big personality, not coming to the Jets. In 2005, Vince Young is out there. The Jets weren't very good. Go get Vince Young. I was living in Texas at the time. I'm like, please get Vince Young. It would be amazing. Didn't get Vince Young. Got Mark Sanchez a couple of years later. Like, you guys see what I'm saying? Like, there's a trend of the Jets shying away from big egos, big stars, big talents, in the desire to create the ultimate team. And I'm hopeful that will one day hit, but the stats are not for us. Like I think it changes in order. We haven't been better than 7-9 since 2017. So,
yeah, you showed some length this year. I think Zach Wilson might be the real deal. I don't know. You never know.
56% completion of his passes with very little receivers and no personnel at the tight end position. I think it depends on the draft. Number one, it depends on the O-line. We need tight ends that can block and catch. And I think we got to get him a defense. If you partner the 6 fumbles with the 12 interceptions, it's like 20 touchdowns and 18 turnovers. And the 6 fumbles I'm talking about are on passes. Yeah, that's tough work when you get it. You know what I'm saying? So my answer is I hope he's okay, but we really don't know.
You like your coach though, right? I like your coach a lot.
We'll see. I don't like the fact that he allowed the offensive coordinator to kind of continue to repeat the same process, expecting a different result. So I think Sala is a good guy. I think he can handle the pressure of New York. A lot of guys can't, right?
Right.
Like a lot of guys cannot handle the major market of New York. People write books about it and stuff like that. Even all these years later, you notice you never saw like an in-depth interview with Weeb Eubank or an in-depth interview after he retired with a Casey Stengel or, Bergeron or any of the big coaches that won championships because they wanted to get the hell out of there. Leave me alone. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I think in the case of Sala, I think we got to see again. He didn't have a good outing, but it's 1 year. It's 1 year.
Just give him some time. Give him some time.
Yeah. In New York, that means we'll give him 1 more year.
So what's your outlook, Tom, for the next year to 3 years?
So a lot of it depends on this draft and free agency. So my hope is that there's 3 free agents I really want to see us get. I want to see us get. We need defense, right? We're number 32nd in the league in passing defense, rushing defense. We're in the second tier of the league. That's not going to work when you got a second-year quarterback who's getting roughed up just about every time he drops back. So I want to see us get Marcus Williams from New Orleans. I want to see us get Schultz, the tight end from Dallas, and I want to see us get I forget his first name, but is a linebacker named Campbell from Green Bay. I think we need to sign those 3 people. Like, we need to make that true. We should have about $57 million in cap space going into that. And then after we sign those people and do a bunch of re-signings, should have somewhere around 13, 15 million bucks to work with. And when we go into the draft, I'd love to see them get a premier running back like Spiller from Texas A&M, Hall from Iowa State, Kyron Williams from Notre Dame. I'd love to see him get a big receiver like that kid Burks. And I can't remember if it's Jalen or Halen from Burks from Arkansas. Love to see him get that. Love to see us get Rucker, the big kid, defensive kid from Ohio State, and Jordan Battle. We got a lot of first-round draft picks. We're a lot of draft picks. I'd love to see us get all of those folks. I'd love to see us get Jermaine Waller, the cornerback from Virginia Tech. It'd be awesome to see a Virginia Tech kid playing for the Jets. Joe Douglas, people don't know this, the GM, he's actually from Mechanicsville, Virginia.
What?
Yeah, he's from Mechanicsville, went to U of R, up the ranks, became coach, wound up getting himself onto the Philadelphia team that won the Super Bowl, and was part of the Ravens team during the Brian Billick years as kind of like a scout. And so he's kind of been around football his whole life. I got faith in him, but he needs to show me something on this draft, because the first draft that he did 2 years ago wasn't very good. Like, he made some bad bets. So,
yeah, I just say this, like, on offense, if you want to, you're going to have to score 24 plus to win a lot of games. And I don't think you can do that unless you can stretch the field, which means you have a quarterback that can make all the throws.
That's
and
right.
You have a speedster that stretches the field, and that opens up a lot of things. If you don't have those 2 basic things, I don't know how you run an offense over 17 regular season games and then try to win 3 or 4 games in the playoffs.
I think you got to have those 2 tight ends. Like we were talking before we got started today. I think you got to have big, brawny tight ends that can go into the middle of the field, make a catch, but they can chip block some of these incredible linebackers. Like, you look at, just the linebacking core and the front 4 of that LA Rams team. That's pretty intimidating. I mean, they got together in the third quarter of that NFC Championship game, had a conversation, figured out what San Francisco was doing, and look at what happened basically the late third quarter to the end of the game. Garoppolo did not have a second, and that's an NFL team that's very accomplished. We need to be able to compete at that level with some tight ends that can handle that kind of pressure. Otherwise, I think Zach Wilson is going to spend more time running for his life.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than a young quarterback running for his life his first 2 to 4 years.
Ask Sam Darnold.
Right. Yeah, who's in Carolina now.
That's right.
Let's pivot to the Super Bowl, Tom. Our buddy Bob Lee, Northern Kentucky fame, been a Bengals fan begrudgingly for his entire life.
Yep.
I don't think he ever thought he would see the Bengals after they got blown out back when the Sison was quarterback.
Yep.
I don't think he ever thought they'd go back to the Super Bowl, and now they've got a chance to win the whole thing. I'm very, very happy for Bob. But what do you think is going to happen in that game?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and predict it right now. I'm gonna say 35-24 Bengals.
Wow.
I think that Joe Burrow is like, this is an audacious prediction, but every now and then history repeats itself. I think Joe Burrow is like Mike Greenberg said it on Get Up or Wake Up, whatever the name of his show is, a couple weeks ago a couple days ago when he said that Joe Burrow reminded him of Namath. I think he's got a couple of speedsters. I think he has a really good running back. I think he's got all of the tools to confuse and confound the Los Angeles Rams defense. Now, having said that, if he does not have a great game, then it'll be a very awful long day for the Cincinnati Bengals. But he has been having great games. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be a fun game. I hope it's close. I hope the Bengals win. I want them to win. I predicted them to win. because you have now taken the Bengals, Tom, that probably means we're both going to lose.
Correct.
So congratulations, Los Angeles Rams.
So, Matt Stafford, we hope you and your wife enjoy Disneyland. 100%. Yeah.
All right, Tom, this is Kevin. Do you have any last minute things you want to talk about on the topic of the Jets?
Did you make a prediction for the Super Bowl? Did we do that last week?
We did last time. Yeah, I said Bengals.
Oh, my bad. And I said Rams?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure my notes are correct.
Do you know where you are right now?
No, I'm in front of a Tatis jersey.
Nice. All right, so we're going to do a non-standard end here, Tom.
Okay.
You're going to tell us one of your favorite stories, and it does not have to be about the Jets, football, or sports. It can just be a fantastic Tom Greco story.
Okay. And this has to be a good story, obviously. That would be preferable.
It can be a trash story, but I'd say we shoot for something better than trash.
Okay. All right. So I'll tell a fairly fun story about my favorite day with Paul Gilman. Because people today don't get to spend a day with you, right? That's true. So I guess this is like 6 years ago. Is that right?
Sounds right. Yep.
Sounds about right. So I was living in Atlanta. Paul was working in Atlanta. So Paul was in a wonderful mood traveling by plane to Atlanta every single week. He was in an amazing mood. It made him just super fluffy to be around. And shout out to all the people who work at Green Sky. It's a wonderful group of people, and we were all privileged to work with them. And there was one lady there named Latoya, love her to death. She wanted to organize an event to do something to give back to the community, and she decided to give back to the Children's Hospital of Atlanta. And so the company Paul and I were working for, Green Sky, did an event where we were going to go and entertain some kids who were having a hard time illness-wise. Now, my daughter was in the hospital when she was born for close to 100 days. And she was born at 29 weeks. So, like, it was a rough thing for me. Like, I did not want to go. And I was, you have to go, you have to go, you have to go. You'll do all the voices for the kids. Like, you'll do the Cookie Monster for the kids. You'll do the Berenstain Bears for the kids. Please go, Tom. It'll be awesome. So I kept saying no, but there was definitely a push for me to go. And I finally said yes. So Paul said, it'll be fine. You drive and I'll keep you laughing the whole time. I said, okay. So, Paul, will you help me out with this? Because you tell this part of the story the best. I had just bought a new truck. I bought a Toyota Tundra. To be clear, I'm a very tall man. I'm at least 5'6". Or as Paul puts it, I wear size 44, 22 pants, right? So I wait for NBA players to get rid of their dress shorts. I buy them in slacks, right? So, my wife is a lot taller than me. I generally have to get air traffic clearance to get up there to give her a kiss on the cheek. Anyways, we get to the parking garage, and now I have to get a ticket. It's one of these parking garages where you have to push a button and they give you a ticket. You put the ticket on, you put the ticket on your dashboard. I don't want to scratch my brand new baby truck, which I love, right? It's a brand new Tundra. It's gorgeous. Nicest object I've ever owned. So I pulled up pretty far away from this, post. And I was trying to reach the ticket machine. Paul, do you want to tell this particular part of the story?
Sure. All you've got to do is put your hand out, press the button, the ticket comes out. You grab the ticket, you put it on your dashboard or wherever you put it. And I've realized that, well, because I'm 6'3", Tom's saying 5'6". It's probably more like 5'4.5". And I know that he's pulled too far away, and I also understand the basic dimensions of Tom Greco. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to be able to do this normally. But let's see what happens. So Tom inches his way towards the door to be able to reach with his hand, hopefully. And I can tell enough time has passed that he has not been able to touch the button. The ticket has not been dispensed. And so now Tom's got some decisions to make. Is Tom going to is he going to undo the seatbelt?
Right. Am I going to unbuckle? Because as a dude, you don't want to unbuckle. You kind of want to just and then grab it real manly, right? Like,
yeah, unbuckle's not a great move. So you're probably going to do it in a second. Yeah. So Tom opts for opening of the door. And he now knows that I have to know that he's struggling to reach the button. And so I start giggling, but I don't want Tom to know that I know. So I'm kind of trying to keep it to myself. But
you not keep it to yourself. I knew that you were laughing at me.
It's making me very, very happy. So Tom, and he's also worried about the door, so he doesn't open it as much as he needs to, and he's trying to reach his arm around, and he can't. He hasn't reached the button, and I'm like, I think he has to undo his seatbelt at this point. and he undoes his seatbelt, and I'm now very obvious. I'm enjoying the heck out of this.
I believe you're holding your face and laughing pretty hard at this.
Oh, it was it was maybe it's top 5 happiest moments of my life. So Tom undoes his seatbelt and he scooches like half of his rear end off the seat to reach around to the button, and he's still. I'm saying to myself, I don't pray about such things, but I'm thinking to myself, I really hope Tom can't reach it, because I cannot wait to see him put this bad boy in the park, take his foot off the brake, and then go horizontal. And sure enough, he did it. And it's one of the hardest laughs I've ever had in my life. Well, he eventually gets it. By the way, we have like 9 cars behind us honking at us.
They're honking, people are yelling and stuff like that. And when I went horizontal to reach it, my feet came out of the footwell of the driver's side, and I almost kicked
his feet are doing this.
My Paul had to like hold my left ankle like a child, which for Paul was like this, because in Paul's hand, it's this big. So Paul's holding me, and I grab the ticket and I pull in, and I look at, and Paul's laughing hysterically, and I'm laughing, but I'm still a little nervous about going in there. And we Paul's like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. So we get in there, and Paul says, listen, man, these are kids. All they want to do is they just want to have 30 minutes, just 30 minutes where they can forget about being sick. Tom, you're funny. Like, go be funny. Go, just do it up. Go big, man. Do you hear me? Go big. And, Paul's one of those people. He's been a leader for a long time. He's a leader in the United States Army. When he gives you one of those speeches, you get fired up. Right? Like you can't help it. You're like, I am going to go big. Here I go. Right? They bring in all these kids. They hand me a book, Berenstein Bears. And I go at the first 5 pages like I am entertaining hundreds of people. I'm like, and a couple of Cubs. They looked at us and said, but what about us? Fathers, brothers, sisters, mothers. And I'm doing the Berenstein Bears, right? And the kids are looking at me silent.
They're stone facing you.
They're stone facing me. And I'm looking at them, and every time I say something and I finish a page and I turn a page, the kids are kind of looking this way, and there's a nurse right over on the right, and they're doing this. Oh. We get to the 4th page, and there's like this, I know there's a killer line in it, right? There's like this killer line where like, we'll get a tree from Grizzly Gus. Those trees are evergreen weeds. They're not good for us. Come on, Cubs. And I'm like, that's got to kill. That's got to crush. It's got to. There's just no doubt about it. I deliver the line, and the kids, okay, timeout. I go to the nurse. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I understand I'm not great. I don't do this for a living, but I'm not that bad. Help. And she goes, por favor, señor, they no speak English. Like, what? She's like, no lo siento, por favor, en español, ¿sí? And I'm like, I so, and then I go, any, English, and I no. And I'm looking at Paul like, what have you done? And Paul's giving me one of these. Like, Paul's like, I don't know about a plays. I don't have a play down here. Call to the booth. Well, luckily we had another guy with us that could draw Avengers. He could draw all the Marvel characters. We spent the rest of the day giving requests to this guy. Spider-Man, please. Like, Iron Man, please. Scarlet Witch, please. The rest of the day. So that was how the day went. And we laughed about it. And it was still a good day because you could see the kids had a good time. But then we had to leave. And I have to now get a credit card into the exact same machine.
Mm-mm.
And so now I'm sitting there, exact same problem. I didn't think it through because so much has happened during the day. I'm out there and I can't reach to get the credit card. And I'm trying to do the thing where you're throwing it towards the machine and it's not working no matter what I do. And so with that, people are backing up, they're honking. And this guy walks up, "Sir, can I help you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't know what else to say. So your credit card machine isn't working." He goes, "Oh, let me see."
And he did.
I appreciate that. It wasn't working for me. He's like, "Yes, sir, whatever you say." And that was our trip to the Children's Hospital of Atlanta. But it was probably like I was super stressed about it, but it was probably one of the funnier moments throughout the day. And that's my day with Paul Gilman.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And hold my feet, Paul, would have been
right. That became like we must have told that story like 17 different times to anybody who would listen.
That's great.
I mean, I think the move maybe he was so far away that he could probably just walk out of the truck and do the thing.
But
that would have been. Yeah, I don't know. What? No matter what, you did exactly what made me the happiest.
That's exactly correct.
That's all that matters.
That's all that's all that matters.
Tom was there for the children's entertainment and my entertainment.
Unfortunately, the children were not entertained because it was in the wrong language. They needed to tune into the other station.
They were picking up on some of the nonverbals, Tom.
They were, especially when I said English, and they just went, no. Sure don't.
All right, Tom, next time we're going to bring you on to talk about the Rangers. It looks like the Rangers have a good chance to get into the playoffs, right?
They are tied. They're either the top three or the top record in the NHL right now. Chris Kreider leading the league in, I think it's goals or points or both. And they just retired Henrik Lundqvist's jersey in the Garden a couple of weeks ago. Got to watch that. That was pretty incredible. So Mark Messier was on hand for that, the captain, as he is known in New York City. And so it's a great subject. Happy to talk Rangers hockey anytime.
Awesome. Well, Tom, I appreciate you coming on to talk about the Jets.
No problem.
We've had a storied history, maybe not all positive, but certainly storied.
That's right.
Really appreciate you joining us, man.
And you stuck with him. Good job, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, guys. Y'all have a great night. Bye-bye now.